solidarity. And then, of course, with neo-colonialism, that began to die out in a certain way, but not completely. And from your report, which is so enormously documented, all I heard was about some people in a village. What are the movements that we, as movement people here, could be in solidarity with, or is it not formed yet? The other question, I don't want you to neglect my first question for this. Did you say
Why don't you let me answer one at a time?
Yeah.
I won't neglect your second question, unless I forget you. Friends of the Congo and the Campaign to End Genocide in Uganda Now, CEGUN, C-E-G-U-N, two good organizations working on this issue from the United States. In Africa, obviously, clearly, there are many movements in many places that are very productive with respect to what you're asking. But the bottom line is, anybody who becomes too powerful will be and has been infiltrated or crushed. Any movement of any significant force is crushed because the forces aligned against it are so significant and there's so little support from the outside world. So in the village in Isangi, where that big Blattner logging plantation is, you know, where I met with the people who are dealing with the plantation and the oppression by this guy Elwin Blattner, how he calls in the military, how he pays off the governor. You know, I worked there for 2 weeks documenting the atrocities, you know, living with the people, hiding from the company. And one day they sat me down and they said, you know, you understand now what we're up against. You've taken all these notes. We've told you all these stories. What can we do? Who's going to help us? You know, are you going to go out and produce a report that's going to change the world? And I had to say to them, you know, I don't know what effect my reports are going to have. I'll do the best I can. But you want to know how to fight this company, you fight it secretly, and you don't do it by talking to each other about what you're doing. Basically, I told them that they need to use the Earth First tactics, which are, you put sand in the bulldozer at night. You cut the electricity to the company, because the company only understands one thing, economics. And if you're hurting the company on that level, you know, the company's going to respond. If it can't figure out who's doing what's going down, and it needs labor, if it doesn't know who the workers are, who's doing it, it's got to keep itself running, and at some level it's going to be forced to negotiate. It may be a very brutal process, but that's the only thing I can advise these African folks in the middle of the Congo to do, because I don't see anybody in the room here coming to their rescue, including myself. I mean, there's only so much I can do, and I don't know what to do about it. So my answer to your question is, the liberation movements are there in some levels, but is there an armed liberation movement for the Congo that makes any sense at this point? The closest thing to an armed liberation movement that's just and truth for the Congo would be the Mai Mai, who are described as these people walking backwards into battle wearing bathroom fixtures on their head. There's a reason why they're described like that. But the Mai Mai have also committed atrocities. Congolese soldiers have committed rapes. They're victims. It's a blame the victim mentality. You point the finger at the Congolese soldiers as if there's nobody behind them. The lower victim is the woman who's brutalized. But how do you get at this piece of the puzzle? We have to do it from the United States. It doesn't involve anybody flying off to Africa anymore on a certain level. And it's all about awareness and raising the people's consciousness. But how are we going to do that when people keep sitting down and consuming Hollywood and consuming the New York Times? So it was a multi-layered answer to your question. It's not an easy answer, and I don't have a lot of hope.
Okay, I want to make an announcement for another event on November 10th. It's the Evolution of Disaster Capitalism, Fine-Tuning Shock Doctrine Policies. And so we'll feature Beverly Bell. Well, we'll feature four areas: Haiti, Congo, Pakistan, and New Orleans. We'll have Beverly Bell, Kambale Museveni, and Tracy Washington. So I hope to see you there. Here at the Brecht at 7:30, November 10th.
Kambale Museveni is from Friends of the Congo.
Oh, yeah.
And I had said a couple times that I'd love to have you hear from this guy from Congo. Do you guys want to hear from this guy who survived the genocide in the Congo? Would you like to say something?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you had a question.
Yeah, actually I asked for the microphone to make a couple of a couple of corrections. Friends of the Congo is different from our group. Somebody asked me. Our group is Congo Coalition, and we are based here in New York. And we are as poor as Keith is, so make sure you try to support us. The second correction I want to make is that if you go on the website of Friends of the Congo, though I work with them, but they are also being supported by some of these groups. So Kambale is from the Congo. He's a young brother. He's speaking out. But we have to also, again, as Keith said, investigate who's behind the movement. And then, Keith, one thing that Keith did not mention is that the Congo's problem is complicated. They have made it complicated because the president in the Congo right now is also a Rwandan who was put there by Paul Kagame. And actually he's a nephew of James Kabarebe, who's the chief of staff of Paul Kagame's army. They call him Joseph Kabila, but that's not his real name. His real name is Hippolyte Kanambe. And the Congolese people know this, but this has been covered up throughout the world. And we've been fighting to, the Belgians know it. The Belgians expose it. All Congolese know it, but a lot of people do not know that. So that to us, Congo Coalition, the Congo is an occupied country because the eastern part of the Congo is controlled 100% by Rwanda and Uganda. And Kinshasa, the government, there's no government because Joseph Kabila, whose real name is Hippolyte Kanambe, controls, kills Congolese. There's no judiciary, there's no government, no parliament. He kills whoever opposes him. And the lady asked about who it can be supported like in Africa. In the Congo, you cannot begin to speak about the government and stay alive. A young man just threw a rock at the car of the so-called president, and he got killed. Right? So this is a problem in Africa, in a country like the Congo. I don't know about the other countries, but in the dictatorship today, even in Rwanda, you can speak up. And Keith was just suggesting for somebody to put like sand in a bulldozer, a tank. The next day they will find you, and they're not going to just kill you. They're going to kill your whole family. They're going to wipe you off the map, and nobody will know about it, and nobody will talk about it. So I just want to make those quick announcements.
Thank you, Yalenge. We appreciate it, and we do hope that maybe we can talk about having you yourself come and talk here, as Keith suggested. It would be wonderful. I just want to say that, as Keith pointed out a few times tonight, Gédéon is here. He's a survivor of the genocide against the Hutu, and he was in Congo, and refugee in Congo, and Gédéon has said that if anybody would like to ask a question, maybe he'll be happy to respond to it for you. I would like to start, if I may, and just ask Gédéon maybe to just tell us briefly how Keith's narrative fits your own experience of what happened. And
thank you, Keith. Thank you for your introduction. For me being here, I feel like I don't deserve to be here because there were many brave, strong, smart guys than me who didn't make it. Since 1990s, and that's when the war of RPF started in Rwanda. I was in Rwanda alongside with my parents for 4 years. RPF killing civilians. I was in Rwanda. I went through a lot. I saw it a lot. I left Rwanda in 1994 during the genocide. What I saw were civilians fleeing away, being killed by the RPF. I was among those civilians. I arrived in Goma in 1994, in July 1994, where I lived with almost 700,000 refugees. And these are stories you see on CNN. The way it's covered is not the way it's actually on the ground. We live it. If I can mention that, I was telling Keith how this organization that bring in aid for us is a small cup, small. Imagine seeing an empty can of tomato cap, the empty can. Fill it up with beans. That was my food for a week. So you giving money away, you helping refugees. Those food are being delivered to us, and that's what we see. That's what we receive. At the end, they will tell you that where there is a voluntary repatriation in Rwanda. What I saw was RPF coming surrounding 100,000 of refugees, shooting everybody who is not going to Rwanda. It was a bloody war. That's when I escaped. I worked in forest of Congo about 5 months. Behind us, there were RPF killing us. During these 5 months is when you see this UN report were published in this October 1st. And the report is suggesting that it may be a genocide. But for 5 months, I witnessed